When I teach my economics class, I find that simulation makes the topics more relatable and sensible for my students. While there are a plethora of digital and paper simulations that I can use, there are also many board games and card games that do a phenomenal job of representing the subject matter that I teach in my class. This is the 5th video in my Games I Would Use to Teach If Money Were No Object series. And this week we will discuss economics. If you are interested in seeing games that will work well for teaching social studies to the younger game players, check out the post by Sensible Homeschool that is linked in the description of this video. Let's get started. First game that I would use to teach economics to my students would be Settlers of Catan. This game can be used with younger students as well, and is an easy game to introduce students to the use of board games in the classroom. In Catan, players gain resources through dice rolls that they use to expand their communities and cities across the island of Catan. The goal is to be the first person to 10 points. Oftentimes, players don't get all the resources they need at any given time, so they are forced to trade with one another to get the resources that they need. The game is a great example of resource management and voluntary exchange. I would use it early in a course to get students used to the idea of learning through gameplay, as well as introducing economic concepts before we discuss them in class. There have been many games developed in recent years that focus on trains and transportation of goods from one place to another. Many of these have been created by Martin Wallace and are variants on a similar theme. Birmingham, Age of Steam, and Steam are all variants on a similar theme of producing and transporting goods. Use of any of these games would be beneficial in discussing production as well as the supply chain of goods necessary to get finished products into the possession of consumers. The game of choice would really be up to the teacher in deciding what angle they want to take on the variant. Birmingham is highly regarded and would show the use of ships to transport goods by canal before introducing the use of trains. It is the most complex of these games. Age of Steam has an element of investment, and Steam is the simplest, most straightforward mechanic. In all cases, I would follow up the game with a discussion about what it takes when students order something online for that item to get into their door, or what's necessary for an item to get onto the shelf at the store so it's available for them to buy. The third game I would use to teach economics is Power Grid. The premise of Power Grid is that players are building a network of power plants to power cities across the map. The original map is in Germany, but there have been many different maps created over time, so really teachers can pick and choose what location they want to play this game in. Players will upgrade their power plants throughout the game, but part of the decision making is that they need to buy oil, gas, nuclear, or trash power those plants. There is a limited amount of each resource each turn, and they can replenish slowly. As the amount of each resource available shrinks, the price goes up and it gets more expensive. There is a clear dynamic of supply and demand that's present in this game, and it would be a great game to play and then discuss as we talked about those topics. In the board game Disrupt, players take on different roles with technology companies in Silicon Valley. Whether they take on the role of a starter-upper, the BPO, the angel investor, or the market leader, players want to develop products, make money, and be at the top by the end of the game. The game shows investment and development of new products and gives students a taste of different elements that are necessary to bring a product to market. The game is dynamic and interactive as well, as players need to work together and help each other accomplish their goals. I would use this game as a part of my discussion about business and investment to help make the concepts more real for my students. Acquire is the classic hotel investment game where players build hotel businesses that grow, expand, and merge. Throughout the game, players buy stock in the companies that they believe will do the best, and as the companies merge, players get an influx of money. As companies get bigger, their stocks become more valuable. Players have a goal of growing the value of their stocks so that they have the most money at the end of the game. This game would be another good discussion starter about investment and evaluating company value. Moving into macroeconomics, Hegemony is the ultimate game for discussion about macroeconomics with GDP, unemployment, fiscal policy, and government interaction with the economy and societal class interaction represented in this asymmetric economic simulation. Additionally, players would consider the implications of running businesses and allowing individuals to become more prosperous. This game is the best game for teaching a breadth of economic topics, but the biggest drawbacks related to the game are that it's very complex to teach due to the fact that every team is different, as well as the fact that the game with 4 players could run 4 to 5 hours, making it difficult to play through the entire game if you cannot set aside the game and keep it from one day to the next. Finish out the discussion about macroeconomics. QE is a light-hearted look at monetary policy and inflation. In QE, players serve as central banks in different countries in a too-big-to-fail economic situation, and the central banks can bid whatever they want price-wise to win control of the various companies. At the end of the game, the player with the most victory points depends on various factors like company value and zero bids. The twist of the game is that even though players can bid whatever they want to get control of the companies throughout the game, the player that has the highest total on their winning bids is eliminated from the game entirely. They spent too much and they cannot win. This game could be a good discussion starter for inflation as we see prices increase over time because central banks have the ability to print money without limitation. But the check on that is that doing so with abandon will end up doing more harm than good to the economy. We will then discuss what responsible monetary policy looks like and whether monetary policy tools are effective or not. If I want to go more in depth with any of these topics, there are numerous games that go over each of them. For example, Forex would be a different take on investment that would focus on investment in different currencies, or Container would be an alternative to the Martin Wallace train games when talking about the movement of goods and services. Not all games are made equal, as some games are very loose interpretations of economic realities in board game form, but there are many great tools available if we search through the options that are out there and find the solid choices. I hope this look at board games and economics has been helpful to you. I'd love to hear of other games that I should consider when teaching my economics class in the future. Go ahead and drop a comment that has your favorites. If you're interested in more videos about board games in the classroom or board games in general, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.